Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and incidents in pop culture to see how those incidents affect our daily lives. Listen, you see my face shining, you're going to have to ignore it. That is medication, honey, because my skin is not making it through to this cold weather, child. My allergies kicking in big time. But you didn't need to know all that. I just wanted you to be very aware that my skin is quite glistening, and we love that for us. But my skin is a mess. But anyway, if you like what you see here, please like, comment, and subscribe. You see it scrolling down at the bottom. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I have 308, and I couldn't be more stoked. So let's get this 600 more subscribers. Please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell your coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. So today is this What's Up chapter of my pop culture chat. And basically what that is I don't have a story that I want to dedicate a whole video to. So I picked some information from the news, from the blogs, from everywhere, and we discuss this information as we should. Okay. So, what are we going to discuss today? Let me get to my screen. There was a lot of stuff because, I saw the stuff and then I was like, yeah, well, but I decided I've got three stories that I want to hit today. And so, let's get to it. Let's get to it. I just got off work, y'all, and my head is spinning, spinning. All right. So last week, and probably now week before last, uh, DJ Academics and who is this man right here, and this man right here, Saucy Santana. Saucy Santana, he's an openly homosexual man. They were beefing. Why were they beefing? Well, apparently DJ Academics had made some statements about Carisha. Now, Carisha is Young Miami from the City Girls. And if you're familiar with that music and the rap music, these two young ladies are rappers from outside of Miami. Saucy Santana is from Miami, and apparently Carisha and Saucy are best buddies. Well, DJ Academics had said some disparaging things about Miss Carisha, according to Saucy Santana, because I have not heard, nor can I verify what he said or how he said it. But he had said some disparaging things. I don't know if it was just about her music. I think it was some personal hits or shots. However, Saucy Santana did not like that. So decided that he was going to be the male that was going to stick up for Carisha. And he basically, Saucy and Academics was going back and forth. Well, in this back and forth, Saucy made a statement. And in that statement, he said that, hey, if you want to fight, you leave Carisha out of this, me and you will fight. Why don't you pull up to something that they were having last Tuesday, some party, some kind of function, and Saucy Santana invited DJ Academics to pull up and they were going to fight. Okay. DJ Academics said something back to Saucy Santana. They were going back and forth. One of the things that happened is that Saucy Santana turned around and said, yeah, because I'm going to beat you behind. And after I beat you behind, I am going to blank you in your behind. And DJ Academics didn't take too kindly to that. And as he should not have, because no one should be threatening essay or anything like that on anybody. And just so I'm gonna just go through this. They went back and forth, went back and forth, and went back and forth. DJ Academics got upset because he was like he wants to be able to say something back to Saucy, but because according to DJ Academics, because Saucy is part of the LGBTQIA community, he feels like he is going to get canceled. Now, I thought DJ Academics had been canceled or had he just been removed from certain platforms? I'm not sure. Regardless of that, DJ Academics decided to have some type of, I guess, a little podcast or whatever it was with this man right here, Whack 100. Now, Whack 100, I know him to be the manager for Blueface. I remember him probably about a year ago. He was getting into it with Krishan, which kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Now, I will tell you, these people are down here in my age back bracket. So forgive me if I don't know the ins and outs of all the stories. Anyway, DJ DJ Academics right here went to DJ Academics right here went to Whack 100. Whack 100 decided, I guess he believes that he is the man to go to. He was going to call one of his friends that was in the LGBTQIA community to then turn around and beat up Saucy Santana. Saucy Santana caught wind of it and made statements to DJ Academics acting, you scared, that he'd fight DJ Academics, he'd fight Whack 100, and he'd fight whoever it was that they got out of the LGBTQIA community to to fight Saucy. So Saucy was basically about that smoke. I think it has kind of died down as it should have, but it wasn't a story for me to dedicate a whole pop culture chat to. But one of the things that I find interesting when you hear all of these things like this is, and I have to be very delicate when I say this, it's interesting how certain men, like DJ Academics and other men that have no issues and problems with arguing with women. Because let me just take my stance. There is no men should argue with men, women should argue with women. I don't believe in this cross going back and forth. I don't believe in going back and forth with a man. That is not my job and that's not my place. Do I have a mouth and can I stick up for myself? Absolutely. But I have learned in my living on this earth that men listen to men more so than men listen to women. So if I need someone to, if I'm arguing, if I've got a point, if I can't talk to you in a calm and decent manner, or if I feel like you're being threatening, I am going to ask somebody to intervene in my behalf. Now, when I say that, I don't want anybody to sit up here and think, oh, you're going to send somebody out here to fight. No, have a conversation. That's all I'm talking about. But I just found it interesting that there is a subsection of men that want to argue and go back and forth with women. And I know they go under this guise of, well, you all want to be equal to men and you all want to be this, or you'll say it doesn't have anything, in my opinion, to do that. There's just a segment of men that, they like to do that. But and when you try to explain to this segment of men that, hey, you all can get out of control sometimes, even if it's something just as simple like a parking space or a different of political views or whatever it is, you can go back and forth, but you can be respectful and you can be respectful. And sometimes it doesn't work like that. Sometimes, in order for some men to get their point across, they have to use their bodies and their bodies and their uh, physicality to try to shut you up. And I know that DJ Academics has done some of these things with certain things. I remember a video that they showed last year where he was arguing with some woman and he took her purse and she wanted to go someplace else. And he was like, no, you're going to go with me. And he snatched her purse, knowing that she had her stuff and stuff in there. And so that was to make her go with him, even though he knew she didn't want to go with him. Those types of things. But he got to crying on the screen, and I could not understand why was he so upset and crying and all this other stuff. He was like, well, Saucy shouldn't have talked to him like that. And, he's feeling like he can't say what he wants to say or do what he wants to say. And, he is, they even got Dr. Umar in this. Dr. Umar was supposed to come in and mediate this problem for between DJ Academics and Saucy Santana. But I think the thing that they all got hung up it with was because Saucy, who was wrong for that. I don't want anybody to mishear me. He was wrong for that, for saying that he was going to uh, uh, basically beat his behind, beat DJ Academics behind, and then put something in his behind. Now I don't condone any of those things, but that is what has was said. But my only interest is the fact that it's amazing how certain segment of men could understand that behavior from one man to another is wrong, but they don't seem to think that that behavior is wrong when it comes to a man talking like that to a woman. And so this got me thinking about levels and things like that, and particularly of consent and all these little different things. But this is what all that has gotten me to think about. It's interesting how you can understand something when it is confronted this way versus you understanding when a woman tells you, "Hey, I'm being confronted like this. I need somebody to intervene, or we go away, or whatever." Find that interesting. Again, I don't advocate anybody going around fighting and beating up anybody or doing any of those things like that. But I just find that this story, though it wasn't a huge story, like I said, to dedicate a whole video on, but it was an interesting story nonetheless. So let's move on. What do y'all think about this Saucy Santana, DJ Academics, and Whack 100 story? Let me know down here in the comments. So then we get to this young man and his family. He has such a cute family. This is Keith Lee and his family, Ronnie and their two little kids. And I've been following this. I've been following Keith Lee on TikTok probably right in the middle of the pandemic because I remember when his wife was pregnant with the eldest child. So that's been maybe like 2, 3 years ago. And I remember the first time I was following Keith Lee, he was actually cooking for his wife. He's an MMA fighter. I don't know his weight class or anything like that, and I don't know if he's still fighting. But I know during that time he was still participating in MMA fighting, and his wife was pregnant. And while she was pregnant, he would cook food for her. He would go and find recipes and different things, and he'd cook the food, and she would, kind of tell him if the food was good or tell him if the recipe was good or anything like that. So from that, he started critiquing food. He used to do the boxes. He'd get these candy boxes from different parts of the world, or he'd go into this candy store that had all these different kinds of candies from other parts of the world, and he would taste test them in his car. He would try them out. And then from that, it evolved into him going into restaurants, purchasing the food, buying the food, and then grading the food. And what happened probably last year, the first part of last year, he was going into restaurants in his home city of Las Vegas. I don't That's where him and his wife live. And they would go in and critique restaurants, and because he had such a big following on TikTok at the time, because I think at that time he may have had like 1 million followers, 500,000 to 1 million followers. He would go into a restaurant. I know he went into a restaurant that was struggling. Someone asked him to come to the restaurant to eat. He did. He enjoyed the food. He gave the restaurant a decent review. And then from that, there was just lines out the door. And this was a restaurant where the owner was struggling, and he did that. And it didn't matter who owned the business, whether they were black, white, or what ethnicity they fell under. He would go, he would buy the food, he would rate it. If he liked it, then his followers were like, well, if Keith likes it, because his palate at that time was very finicky. So if he liked something, then people trusted that what he liked was good. If he didn't like it, people trusted that what he tasted wasn't good. And he would be fair. He would go back. He'd give them an opportunity to figure some things out, and he'd go back. Well, he had gotten so big, and particularly in Las Vegas, that people would see him coming. So he would then employ some stealth tactics where he'd have his family go in. And, at first it would be his wife that would go in, but she's just as recognizable as he is at this point, and so is his eldest daughter. They're just as recognized at this point. So he started employing, other friends and families to go in it to get get the food and stuff like that. And so he became huge, and he is a really big deal in the city of Las Vegas. So earlier this summer, he decided that he was going to do a food tour. He was going to go to, a lot of restaurants were asking for him to come. So he decided that he was going to do a food tour in different cities. Now, I do know he went to Los Angeles, he went to Chicago, he went to New Orleans. I know he was down in Miami. And I do think he was in Orlando because I do remember one time that he was at Disney World. I do believe he was there. But he's been to several cities, and I think he's been to New York. Don't quote me about the New York, but he has been to several cities and been to, several different restaurants, particularly the ones that have called for him to come. Again, he's used his stealth and he has gone and he has critiqued the food, the service, the ambiance, because usually he doesn't eat in. He has his family go get the food. If he does decide that he's going to eat in, he'll have his family go get the tables and stuff like that. And as soon as they have space or something for them, then he'll walk in, and that's fine. And he has critiqued the food, and he is popular now. And just him coming in and critiquing the food and the atmosphere and all those things of those restaurants, they call it the Keith Lee effect. He has the ability, because again, a lot of people trust his palate, that he has the ability to bring business to an establishment, or the opposite effect. Now, I know that he doesn't like for the opposite effect to happen, but that's just the long and the short of it. That's what happens when you are critiquing food. you know I know. So anyway, why do I mention all of this? So last week or the week before last, Keith Lee was in Atlanta. And so he had been invited by restaurants to come and to critique his food. Now, Keith espouses that he doesn't want any special treatment. He wants to be able to go in, if he's going to sit in and eat at the restaurant, he wants to be able to go in and sit down, and he doesn't want any special treatment. Now, he's Keith Lee, so they're going to give him special treatment regardless. But he went down to Atlanta, and or Atlanta. He went to Atlanta, and Keith noticed that there were some rules and regulations in certain Atlanta establishments that he deemed to be different, that he didn't see in other cities, and he didn't see in other cities, particularly didn't matter who was running the restaurants. So he went to one restaurant, because I know he had two great reviews. There was a Jamaican spot, and then there was another spot that he reviewed, and he gave great reviews for. So then he went to the Real Milk and Honey, which is not to be confused with the Milk and Honey. There's two restaurants with Milk and Honey in the name, but he went to the Real Milk and Honey, and he went to the Old Lady Gang. So when he went, I think it was on the weekend, and according to Candy Burris, because she did come out and speak on it, she said that they don't do takeout orders on the weekend because they want to give their dining guests, a great experience. So Keith noticed that, throughout all the restaurants that he went to, particularly those restaurants that were black owned, all the restaurants had these types of rules that he's never seen before. And they also didn't do takeout. They say they do on their websites, but then when you call, they say, no, we don't do takeout. And there's all these other little different things. He also noticed that some restaurants go from a restaurant, then they turn into a lounge or a hookah lounge or a club in the middle of the dining experience. and then they're wanting to rush you out because they want the I guess the monies and things like that from all the people who are coming for the lounge experience, the hookah lounge experience or the club experience. So he just talked about some things, he was not demeaning, he was not ugly about anything. He did state several times that he didn't want anybody to bring any hate or anything to those things. But what ended up happening is he exposed the hospitality culture in Atlanta. Now, people will say, "Oh, it was him and he didn't, he's talking about a group." Well, if you had been on Instagram and if you had been on TikTok and if you had been on YouTube, there were a lot of people, a lot of pundits, as I call them, that were talking about this culture. And not just with Keith Lee, they would say Keith Lee just shined a light on it, in the fact that there's a lot of people that have complained about this type of stuff. But since they're all, a majority of them are doing it, the people have just, they've complained about it, but they're just going along with the flow. Now you'll have some people who will say, well, because when African Americans open things, we're behind the eight ball, and we're trying to be the best, do the things, and there's some things that we just we're not going to do, and you know all of these things. So there are people who were pro the restaurant, saying that whatever they're doing, allow them to do it because of the fact that it's difficult for some people to get the funding and things like that. Understand that. But we weren't talking what Keith Lee wasn't never talking about funding or anything like that. He's just basically talking about a good dining experience. Because if your customer doesn't have a good dining experience, uh your restaurant, it doesn't matter about any of those other things that you handle behind the scene. If you don't have any customers, your restaurant is not going to be viable. And so it just exposed some of the restaurants how they really going to have to beef up their customer service and what they're doing. Baby, this turned into, and that's the level that it stayed at. Again, I told you Candy came in and she talked about, why he wasn't served and how, she still wants to be able to serve him. She understands who he is and all this other stuff. Well, the people at the Real Milk and Honey decided that, the criticism that he had about how he wasn't able to get his food and why he didn't get his food and this is what happened. They decided to act like, well, they just decided to belittle the man because of the fact that they believe that they were not aware, but quite as it's kept loud and about to say it, somebody on their staff invited the man to come. That's why he hit that restaurant. But because it didn't go the way they thought it should be planned, instead of taking the constructive criticism, whatever that was, and it didn't seem like a lot to me, they decided to double down and act like, oh, we don't even know who Keith Lee. They did some video saying that they didn't know who Keith Lee was, and they took the video down. And then I know they went on a radio show and all this other stuff. So then here comes Mr. Chad Ochocinco. Let me get him on the screen, Joe. Here we have Chad Ochocinco. Now, Chad Ochocinco and Shannon Sharp do a podcast late at night, and during their podcast they discussed what was going on. Now, Chad didn't do any research, me search, he search, she search. He didn't do anything. He just got upset. I don't like when folks come in and talk about black businesses. They shouldn't be talking about them. Why? A business is a business is a business, regardless who owns the business. And so he makes some disparaging statements about, how he gonna come in and say anything. Don't nobody know who Keith Lee is, blah, 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 blah. Also, I forgot to mention with the Real Milk and Honey, there was allegedly the manager was there. She got that's allegedly, because I don't know if she was the manager or not. They found her There was a post made on Twitter where this person who claimed that she was the manager said that she didn't understand why people were following this autistic man anyway, and who does he think he is? He's not Gordon Ramsay. He is not no food critic, or he didn't go to culinary school to be able to critique food. Sound if you eat, you can critique food. You can look at me and tell I can critique the hell out of some food. Okay? But you can. You don't need to have some type of 4-star, 5-star uh, rating, or you've had to spend 26 years in the at culinary school to be able to uh, eat some food and decide whether or not you like it according to your palate. It's not. But Keith Lee has carved a way for him and his family in that field, and that's what he does. Regardless of the fact that he's on TikTok and he's doing it, that is what he does. He has impacted a lot of people within his community in his home state of Nevada, Las Vegas, and also in Los Angeles, in Chicago, in New Orleans, and I want to say that he was in New York, but I know he was down in Miami. So, what do y'all think about this story? So Keith Lee came back and he pretty much gathered Ocho Cinco and told him, basically, pull up. We can talk about this thing. Because why is it that you feel like what I say has no merit, but you don't even know who I am, and you don't even know what I do? So Ocho Cinco, looked back over that thing and realized, did the research, the me search, the she search, and the he search, and realized who he was and how he rolled. So he acquiesced uh, to that particular thing. So, what do y'all think about this Keith Lee story? Again, like I said, I had these two little stories that I wanted to talk about. They did not warrant a whole video on their own, but I did want to kind of just touch on these two little stories. So, what do y'all think about these two stories? What do you think about this whole Saucy Santana and DJ Academics? What do y'all think about that? What are y'all thinking about this Keith Lee versus Atlanta restaurant culture? What do y'all think about that? Let me know down in the comments and we'll talk about it. We'll discuss it. We'll go over it. All these good little things. All right, y'all. That's the end of my what's up. Oh, did y'all see Meg the Stallion's new video, Cobra? What did y'all think about that? She really was in that video. Uh and in the song, she was very vulnerable with the stuff that she was talking about. And I feel like a lot of that had to do with what's happened to her in probably the past, I'm gonna say 5 years, with her mom dying, uh, with her issues that she had with her record label, with the issues that she's had with the people in the industry, with the whole Tory Lanez and that whole debacle, and all of those little different things. What did you think about her song? Have you watched the video? Have you listened to the song? Listened to the lyrics? What do y'all think? Let me know down in the comments. All right, people. We do this every week. Every week. So please like, comment, and subscribe. Again, tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos, y'all. And as always, people, bye bye.